Welcome back to Yu-Gi-Oh! History. It's Joe Giorlando. I'm back again with Sean Montague. We're playing Tele-DAD mirror matches again. We've added Plague Spreader Zombie, which means we're going to play Authentic to the end of the format, which also means we're both main decking Royal Oppression. This is going to coincide with a deck profile, but just to show you, I've added an array of Synchro monsters, which were not released at the beginning of the format. So I'm talking about Black Rose, Life Trancer, Tempest Magician, and then the two targets if you're playing against the zombie deck that was popular during this format. You'll also notice some of the other numbers have decreased, so we're only talking about 2 copies of some of the level 8s, 2 copies of Goyo instead of the full 3. Gladiator Beasts lost popularity pretty quickly. As a result, you won't see Sandwich or Geyseris in the extra deck either. Anyway, here we're opening with a pretty good hand. Obviously, Reinforcements of the Army, Destiny Drop. So the only reluctance I have to going turn 1 Rhoda for Stratos and Destiny Draw Malicious is whether or not you have a good out to Goyo Guardian. Because I have a Brain Control and a Reinforcements of the Army, I think I actually do have a good out to Goyo Guardian, so I think it actually is safe to go ahead and do this play. Sometimes if you leave your Stratos exposed on the first turn, you end up running into, as I mentioned before, Goyo Guardian. So the reason I didn't Rhoda there for Greffer is obviously I have Necrogardener as a warrior here, but I didn't want to expose the Reinforcements of the Army for the Greffer. If he knew I had Greffer, he might be reluctant to summon the Goyo Guardian into the Stratos because he knows that I could follow it up by summoning Greffer and pitching and going into Plague and reacting back. So now that I drew this Necrogardener, now the question brings up, do I end up Greffering here? I don't think so. I think because I have a second Diamond Dude in my deck, I don't need to use the Reinforcements of the Army. I have 2 warrior targets already. The question here is if I de-draw Diamond Dude, and the answer to that I think is yes. I think trying to draw into the traps Crush Card Virus and Trap Dust Shoot are so important that it is worth doing this. And again, I don't know if I want to Rhoda into a second Diamond Dude in case I draw a de-draw, or if I need to respond and go into Greffer, as I alluded to before, if he Goyo Guardians me. So I'm holding the Rhoda. A lot of times people will argue you want to thin your deck, thin your deck, thin your deck, but I'd rather have the luxury of deciding after I see a few more draws what direction I want to go into. Here, again, I think Sangan and Necrogardener are both disposable, so I can continue with the Allure of Darkness here. That's great. I do this Phoenix Wing Blast, so now I have absolute protection to Goyo, and it combos really well with this Necrogardener. The card in my hand that I think is the least valuable is actually this Sangan, because this Necro combos with the Rhoda for Greffer and also this Phoenix Wing Blast. So I'm actually going to banish Sangan, which might seem weird. You have Sangan and Necrogardener. Why would you banish the Sangan? Yeah, I can search Plague, but I have access to that with Rhoda. And by putting Necrogardener in the graveyard, as you saw from the first match that I played, Necrogardener is a really powerful card in this format. So here I have 2 darks. I think it's safe to set the Wing Blast, and this is one of those hands where I think I can OTK on turn 2, depending on what he does. So I am going to set the Solemn Judgment. There are times where I hold Judgment, but this isn't going to be one of them. I'll also allude to the fact that technically holding Rhoda also plays around his Dust Shoot and Crush Card Virus, which, yeah, I technically have responses to, but they're not really comfortable responses. So if he plays Heavy Storm, I am going to Judgment it. The reason I would Judgment is the Wing Blast by ditching the Necrogardener would sort of protect me against OTKs. That is something you always have to consider in Heavy Storm formats. Do you allow your opponent to Heavy Storm you? In this case, I would actually Judgment that because I think protecting this Wing Blast to ditch the Necrogardener to put me to 3 darks is really important. Here, if he's just going to summon the Stratos, that's totally fine with me. The worst case scenario relative to the beginning of the first turn would be a combination where I didn't draw any of those trap cards, and he was able to summon something like Breaker, and potentially I set a bluff with my Stratos, and he breaks my back row and then goes into Goyo Guardian off of Teleport. I should note that we are playing toward the end of the format, and although I don't technically know Sean's deck list, we've acknowledged the fact that Oppression is fair game and Plague Spreader is legal for our matches right now. Teleport wasn't as popular by the end of the format. A lot of people cut Teleport. By the end of the format, Jerry Wang won the last YCS, or at least SJC during this format, and he only ran 1 Teleport. I'm actually running his deck card for card. His version was a version I really liked. Included the Necrogardener. It only had 1 emergency teleport with only 2 Krebons. The Plague Spreader zombie really filled out the role of the additional teleports. So this is interesting here. He's Destiny drawing the Doomlord, so he's electing to still main the copy of Doomlord by the end of the format, and I mentioned this in the deck profile. 2 Diamond Dudes were a little bit more popular than the split of Doomlord and Diamond Dude, but you know, you could still see people run the single Doomlord too. Diamond Dude got a little bit more popular because with Royal Oppression, the 1600 defense actually walled really well. So here he's using the Allure of Darkness and banishing the Malicious, which is good for us. That means he only has access to 1 more Malicious. He chose not to banish the Malicious in the graveyard, so I think it's conceivable that he had the additional copy in his hand prior to activating the Allure. Like he saw that he had the Malicious. Here, I think it's pretty safe to put Stratos in the graveyard here. This is totally fine. I still have OTK just by looking at this current board state. So technically Gores is legal, but it's really uncommon to main deck Gores. I sided it during this format quite a bit. I'm siding it in this version. Depending on what he chooses to do, if he sets 2 back row, I'm going to Wing Blast 1. Okay, now there's a question. I don't think it's worth playing into 3 back rows now. Yes, I have Wing Blast to bounce 1 to the top. I have Solemn for another one, but then that leaves me really exposed, so I don't think it's worth doing that. So we're going to go into standby phase here. I'm going to show him my hand. I think I'm okay with him putting back either of these. The Reinforcements of the Army is pretty strong. I can Rhoda 4. Yeah, he's going to put back the Dark Arm Dragon. Makes sense. You know, if you put back the Necroguard, I can just get it back with the Reinforcements of the Army. That's obviously not ideal for him. But now I'm in still pretty good shape. I can Rhoda for Greffer, and I can ditch the Necroguard. I can also alternatively Rhoda for Diamond Dude and try to get incremental value that way, and then protect my Diamond Dude with this Wing Blast with Necroguard, with Solemn Judgment and Oppression. That's not too bad. You know, he set 2 back rows. It's pretty common that he has his own Solemn Judgment, so we need to consider that. So he Destiny drew his Doomlord. So because he Destiny drew Doomlord here as opposed to Diamond Dude, I think it's unlikely that he obviously has Diamond Dude because he also Alert of Darkness the Malicious. So in my opinion, you would Destiny draw Diamond Dude as opposed to Destiny draw Doomlord. I think most of the time, depending on the makeup of your hand, you'd rather hold the Doomlord. So I think what I'm going to do is I think I am going to go Reinforcements of the Army for the Greffer. The reason is I think with the Wing Blast and potentially this Brain Control, I'm in decent shape. So I'm going to go search out Greffer. And I'm going to ditch the Necroguard to put Plague Spreader into the graveyard. So Greffer. And I'm not going to push. I'm just going to allow the turn to... We'll see if he Solemn Judgments, but I think I'm just going to attack for 1700. I don't really feel inclined to do much more than that. So I can put the Plague in the graveyard here. So I could put Brain Control on top. Yeah, the problem is I'm sort of 1 card off from doing everything that I want because I want to Plague but also have Wing Blast and then have Oppression. So I think here I'm just going to push for the 17 because I feel like on the following turn when I have access to 2 cards in hand, I can both use Plague Spreader's effect but then also use the Wing Blast that I have set. I am also going to set the Oppression here. Obviously he's going to know it, but if he special summons anything, I can just Oppression it. Worst case scenario right now, he summons Breaker and I have to Wing Blast it, which is uncomfortable, but not the absolute worst thing that can happen to me. The 1700 body backed up by Oppression is really good. So yeah, this is good. If he's just setting a back row and a monster here. All right, he could have drawn into Crush Card Virus. That would be quite a play. What other monsters would you set? So you'd set Sangan. He could just have Sangan. The fact that he set another spell or trap card makes it seem like he drew that spell or trap card because he would have otherwise just set it on the first turn with his 2 other back rows, particularly if one of them is Solemn Judgment. So that is an interesting T-set here. I don't think there's really a lot that I want to do about this. I can Wing Blast and put theoretically the Sangan on top of his deck, but that sort of just delays the inevitable because then he just resets it and I'm at the same point. And I don't have this Brain Control to combo with my Plague Engrave. So we're going to go into draw phase, see what happens. That's a potentially really, really powerful draw. Because what Monster Born is going to let me do is potentially destroy Spell and Trap cards with the Stratos in my grave, which I think is actually pretty potent, or the Stratos in his grave to be more precise. It's a good draw. Good draw. I could attack and get information. That's not inconceivable. Because if he has Crush, if he drew Crush, he would activate it. He knows this is Wing Blasts, or he knows this is Oppression, so the likelihood that this Oppression outright wins me the game is probably not overwhelming. So what I could do is I could Reborn the Stratos and try and pop one of his back rows. We're more inclined to believe that one of the two set on the left is Solemn Judgment, and that would be an ideal pop. If I were to pop the Solemn Judgment, I'd be in pretty good shape, because then I could Wing Blast this monster, and then I'd have a 17 and an 18, so I'd have 35, plus the last Malicious, plus a Synchro monster, and then we'd have to do a Warrior count. We'd have 17 plus 18 plus 800. Yeah, that's 43. Yeah, he's at 63. So if I do banish the Malicious, put the Malicious in attack mode, Reborn the Stratos, try to pop one of these two back rows, then I can Wing Blast the set monster or one of his back rows potentially. I'm assuming that he does something. So I'm actually going to make a play. I'm usually pretty conservative in this format, but I think I'm going to make a play here. We'll see here. Maybe he'll Oppression this. And if he does, I'm actually kind of okay playing a game with him Oppressioning. It's good. All right. I'm going to target... So I think Call, Haunted, and Premature were banned. I don't think there's any reason not to just target... Oh, DD Crow. Okay, so his Stratos, yeah. We realized the other day that DD Crow was potentially... It was legal. It wasn't overwhelmingly popular, but people definitely did play it. So we're going to target his. All right, now here's the Oppression. Now here's the question. Is this worth... So he pays the 800. Is this worth using Wing Blast on? I don't think so. I think... Well, if I Wing Blast this... He Solemn's back, and then I play my Solemn, and that's obviously not great. I mean, if this is Reaper, I have the brain control. I'm not too upset about that. Like, what could he really conceivably do with his own Royal Oppression face up to a 1700 Greffer backed up by my Necrogardener? Not a whole lot, actually. I mean, if this is Crush Reaper, then kudos to him, and he knows I have the brain. That would be something. Yeah, okay. We'll send it to the grave. So if this is saying that I'm actually going to attack with the Malicious because it has lower defense than my Malicious has attack. So if this is saying that I might be able to get 1700 in, and if it's Reaper, then it's just Reaper. Yeah, so it is in fact the saying it. Okay, he didn't draw Crush card, which is good. So from his perspective, I'd probably search... Well, he already used Diamond Dude, right? No, he didn't use Diamond Dude. He discarded Doom Lord, yeah. I'd probably search Diamond Dude if I was him. Then he could use Diamond Dude's effect and attack over the Malicious, maybe get some incremental value. He can also search a Tuner or Reaper. Sure. This is good, though. I'll be able to get 1700 in. Drop him to 38, and now he's looking at 25 here, which is actually pretty good. Okay, we'll say go. I'm just going to try and win on the back of the 1700 attack with Greffer, with his Royal Oppression face up. He would have to be running unorthodox cards, like Giant Trunade, which was legal but not overwhelmingly popular. I think it actually probably should have been popular in retrospect. You know, it forced out Solemn Judgments. Obviously, could reset your own Oppression. But again, we're trying to be authentic to the time period. We're not going to go back and try and totally revamp these decks. This is super authentic. So he's going to Solemn Judgment this Wing Blast, or MST this Wing Blast. So he's not using this on Royal Oppression, which is somewhat interesting. He might be trying to bait me into Wing Blasting his Oppression, which I don't want to do. This is Wing Blast, and he's trying to bait me, and then he Wing Blasts my Greffer, and then he summons... I mean, he could summon Diamond Dude or something along those lines. We sort of assume he doesn't have Diamond Dude because of the D-draw earlier, but he could have drawn it. It's an interesting one to target, this Wing Blast. Luckily, I have this Greffer in the graveyard, or Garden in the graveyard, so let's not forget that. With him only at 38, I'm kind of inclined to keep this. Yeah, I'm going to let this go to the grave. I think he's doing this because Brain Control is my out to his Reaper. And I think he was trying to bait that so that I would discard the Wing Blast. All right, Krebons is fine. So if I Garden this, he'll have 2037 on the board. Yeah, I think I used Garden on this. We're going to Garden that. Because I can brain control this, and then it's 2000 plus 17 is 37, and I can revive the Plague too for more damage, and then I'll have one Judgment. So he would need to have drawn another back row, and we know one of the cards in his hand is Reaper. So if he doesn't set anything, we have game. Let's see what he chooses to do. I don't think everybody would have done that there. Oh, okay, interesting. So he's going to use brain control, and he's probably going to target the Greffer, I assume, right? So basically he's using this to go into Goyo that I would then negate with Oppression. If I Solemn and then he Solemns, he goes to 15. And then I Solemn back, or I Solemn, then he Solemns. So I go to 4,000, he goes to 15. And then I could put the card in my hand on top of my deck for Plague. And he loses because if he pays... He doesn't, yeah, well, he basically loses because then the malicious attack directly would drop him below the value of a Royal Oppression, so I'd be able to stick a Synchro monster. That's assuming that this is Solemn Judgment. Let's think of worst case. What could it be that that's absolutely worst case? What if it's Wing Blast? I really don't think it's Wing Blast, though. I think it's just probably Solemn Judgment. Can I win the game if I leave the Solemn set? All right, one thing I can do is actually let him go into Goyo Guardian and not negate it with Oppression, and then brain control the Goyo Guardian and attack with everything with Judgment. And he would have to have drawn another back row. I mean, this is super, super risky because this is letting him establish dominance on the board, but I think it's actually a winning play because we can Judgment his Judgment. So there's two lines here that can basically win me the game. If I let him go into Goyo Guardian, and he didn't draw another back row, and last turn he set MST. It's not inconceivable that he held MST and didn't set it as a third back row because MST is really important. It's limited to one in this format, and you typically hold it for Oppression. So let's see. So if I let him do this and I don't Goyo Guardian, I brain control. Let's say he draws a second Solemn Judgment. He Solemn Judgments and go to 15. And then if I stack for all right, I think I'm actually going to let him do this. So the reason here, and I'm actually not going to Oppression the Goyo Guardian, which I know it's crazy, I know. But he needs to have drawn into another back row. I guess... It's not inconceivable that he himself is running Necrogardener, so this could be Wing Blast Necrogardener, and that would also kind of be a blowout here. Wow. I need to still think here. This is a tough call, because he knows I have the brain control, too. He could be, playing real next level on me here. Yeah, the spots are so tough. Sean is so right. So I know he has Reaper in hand. It's one blank versus what I think is Solemn Judgment here. See, if I pay the 800, though, think of how many draw phases there were going to be, because then he sets Reaper, and I have to attack the Reaper, and then I have to play Brain Control. I think I'm going to say good, because he needs to have had a powerful draw phase right this second. He needs to have the trap. If I don't, then I'm in the position where I have to attack into a Reaper that he sets next turn. Okay, yeah, game over. Well, I guess you could still have the Wing Blast for Necrogardener. That would be some next level stuff. But we'll give it a shot here. We'll Brain Control. And he loses. Nice. That was a tough one. That was a real tough one. But, if I didn't do that, and he sets the Reaper, he gets one draw phase. I have to attack with Malicious and then Brain Control it. He gets a second draw phase. I only attack for 800. He drops to 22. He gets a third. I mean, he gets 4 or 5 draw phases from there. And I only have a Oppression face up, or Oppression face down, and a Solemn Judgment. If he attacks over my Malicious, I'm really in a bad position. So I think letting him summon the Goyo Guardian was probably the best play. I think he had enough powerful draws in his deck. Diamond Dude, Breaker, even Krebons is super powerful there, that I think that was the best play. In terms of side decking, I could put DD Crow in the deck, but you don't really side deck. I know I'm going second, but I'll keep Dust Shoot in. He didn't really side deck a lot. I'm assuming he's going to side deck, so we have to be wary of Dust Tornado and DD Crow and stuff like that, but we're not going to side deck. So now that we're just sitting here looking at the side deck, I guess I'll point out some of the things, because I haven't built a side deck in the deck profiles. I'd have to really dig through my commons to find some Zombra the Darks, but the side deck with this deck was kind of interesting. You basically only side decked for Rogue, so the Defenders and the Fusil Dragon and the Zombra the Dark and the Skill Drains are really good against some of the Rogue decks out there, like Lightsworn, same thing with Light Imprisoning Mirror, or Gladiator Beasts. From that point, I typically liked to side deck Gores. If I felt like my opponent wouldn't respect it, I would play it. Oh, this is a hand that looks like it's from the beginning of the format. It's a pretty powerful opening hand. This is a very typical standard Tele-DAD deck opening hand we have here. We'll see what happens. We'll lose pretty quickly to Oppression. Granted, we have the Wing Blast, but this is one of those hands where at the beginning of the format, on turn 1, you might go D-Draw, Malicious, Teleport, make a board, but as people played this format, they realized that just doing that aggro play is not the best way of playing this format. Letting things develop, picking your points, that was the way of playing this format. So, turn 1 Crush card maybe? Let's see what we get here. All right, we'll start with Destiny Draw. That's the pretty typical first play here. We'll see if he wants to Judgment this. You typically never Judgment this, but if your hand's really, really bad, you might conceivably think about it. Wow, Plague's a good draw. Wow, Breaker's a good draw too. This is a good hand. So the problem here is that this set is probably Tomato, and Tomato's kind of hard to deal with. You had, obviously, Red Dragon Archfiend, but that wasn't super ideal. Bryanak wasn't printed. Yeah, we're probably a year plus from Bryanak. So here, I think I might just summon Breaker and pop this back row. It's probably going to be something like a Wing Blast, and that gives me some nice incremental value there, getting the Wing Blast out of the way. It also likely is going to help me rule out him having Solemn Judgment, because if you open Judgment Wing Blast, you might as well just set both. Yeah, Heavy Storm is legal, but you're kind of insulated against Breaker, because at least you have the Wing Blast, and this is one of those formats where I do typically like to put my traps on the field. There are some formats where you do hold traps. Like, there are some formats where the games go so long, you'll open up with Mirror Force and not set it because you're going to allow your opponent to establish a board and then set Mirror Force. This isn't one of those formats. I like to have these set. You really need the utility, particularly because this format was fairly OTK based. So we're going to summon the Breaker here, see if he has the Wing Blast. And break. Could be MST, Wing Blast, Judgment. Okay, so he has no other traps, or else he would have set them with the Judgment, which is good. The question here is, do I actually attack this monster? So if it's Tomato, he has the ability to just crash into my Breaker the next turn, but that at least costs him a draw phase. So I think we're going to be unwilling to do that. If this is Reaper, we don't really get far. If this is Sangan, we could be fueling his Destiny draw. I kind of would rather him give up a battle phase to do all of that stuff. So I think what I'm going to do is just set the Wing Blast and the Solemn. I think whatever this is, either he leaves it set and then we allow an easy read of Reaper, or he has to use his battle phase next turn, and then if he uses his battle phase, we can follow up and probably OTK him, honestly. So I'm not going to attack his face-down monster. Sangan and Tomato skip the battle phase that you would have to waste next turn. And Reaper, we can get a pretty good read on Reaper if he leaves this set. So Reinforcements of the Army is probably the card he drew. It's not inconceivable that he would still prefer. It'd be next level if this is like Diamond Dude or Doomlord or something, and he's about to pop a back row. Or theoretically try to pop a back row. Okay, that's fine. We'll let him summon this, no problem. Yep, that's good. So this might be Reaper, and he could theoretically flip the Reaper and then threaten us. At that point, I would Wing Blast the Stratos and leave the Reaper. I think I can attack over the Reaper for probably game next turn. I didn't do the math, but I think I have a lot of Synchro Monsters coming out with Teleport for Krebons, So he searched Malicious, but he's playing Allure. That's an interesting sequence. So the likelihood is that he already has Diamond Dude or Doomlord. Okay, so he's going to banish Dark Arm. That's interesting. So typically when, I guess it really depends on the makeup of his hand, but let's just say you have all spells and traps. You play Malicious, you play Diamond Dude, and you play Doomlord. What are you going to search off the Stratos? If you want to Allure, you're obviously not searching Malicious. This is fine here. So banishing the Dark Arm Dragon, huh? Yep, that's fine. No oppression. All right, he has the Teleport. So the reason I was saying that is Teleport is, again, likely at 1. So here's an interesting thing here. I never mentioned this, but obviously you can chain Teleport to Malicious, but that doesn't do a great job playing around Torrential Tribute. What you can sometimes do, though, is play Rhoda and then chain the Teleport to the Rhoda. So that way Teleport resolves Chainlink 2 and puts the Krebons on the field, and then the Rhoda resolves. That way, if Malicious is already on the field, you can then go into Stardust Dragon and it'll play around Torrential here. I'm just sure that my opponent summon monsters. That's fine. You know, until I feel like I'm going to lose, I'm just going to let him keep summoning monsters. I have Wing Blast set, which should insulate me from being OTK'd, and then I have a decent hand to follow up and crack his board. So we'll just keep letting him summon monsters. Right now, it looks like I'm taking 27. Reborn. Reborn's a good card. Yep. I don't really want to use the Wing Blast, so we'll leave it set. I'd rather use the Wing Blast to pop a back row. Yep. So now he's going to go in either double Stardust or maybe Thought Ruler. Diversify? Yeah, he's going to diversify. I really don't want this to be Reaper. If this is Reaper, it's kind of awkward. But if it's Tomato, it's the same thing as Reaper. So I kind of need this to be Sangan. We'll see, though. Well. I mean, the Reaper attack is going to be annoying, but I still think I just hold... Probably... How important are these guys? Well, I need the Wing Blast to stop oppression. So, yep. This isn't game, right? No, not even close. Okay, so this goes to the grave, and I take 1,100. 2146 more. Well, yeah, I mean, I can Wing Blast, but if I do that, it puts me into a position where... Yeah, I mean, nobody likes to be attacked by Reaper, but... Oh, whoops, that's too much. All right, we're going to take 300. All 3 of my cards crack his board. They're all tuners because he's got Krebons in the graveyard. Yeah, Reborn's a good one. Reborn is the one that I sort of prefer. Well, honestly, I don't even know if I need it. We'll see what happens. As of right now, I can crack his field with very little problem. So now if he has 3 trap cards, that's a problem. If he sets oppression, double Solemn Judgment, yeah, he'll win. All right, we're good. I'll go to my draw phase. That's an interesting draw. Wow. That's a cool draw. So I think right now what I want to do... So like there are a ton of things you could do with Teleport. You could Wing Blast, Chain Teleport. If you already had Malicious on the field, that played around Torrential. I'm not really overwhelmingly worried about it. So I definitely need to go into... I think the play might be to go into Thought Ruler Archfiend. Because if I go into Thought Ruler Archfiend, I can attack over the Stardust, and then I can crush card away these 2. Kind of leaves this Reaper, which is a little annoying, but I probably have access then to Red Dragon Archfiend on the following turn. I think the best thing to do is to start by banishing this Malicious, and then he's going to play Oppression, and I can Wing Blast the Oppression, ditching the Plague Spreader Zombie. That seems like the best one to discard. And then I can use the Teleport to go into 1 level 8 Synchro Monster, and I can attack over the Stardust Dragon. And then I can banish for the 3rd Malicious and crush card. That's probably the best. And then I end with Solemn Judgment to his board of just Reaper, drawing with that with no other Maliciouses. I don't know. All right. I think I'm happy with that. We'll banish the malicious, see what he does. Yeah, so I have to Wing Blast this, right? Yeah, well, Wing Blast, discarding the Plague, right? Yeah, on the Oppression. Perfect. So now we're going to get him to draw into Fairly Dead card off the top. Seems good to me. Now we'll play Teleport. Go into Krebons. I think Thought Ruler is probably better. Okay, yep, 1 sec. So now he might Wing Blast here. That would be sweet, because then I could Judgment. That would be a blowout. He would target the Malicious, because I have the Plague Spreader in the graveyard. Maybe he Torrentials here. Okay, he does Wing Blast. All right, yep. Yeah, we'll activate the Solemn Judgments. Yeah, this is great. This is great. You can draw Dead Oppression off the top. Now the question is, do I want to go into Red Dragon Archfiend? Because then I can just attack the Reaper with the Red Dragon Archfiend, deal 2,700 points of damage. He shifts it to defense mode, and I attack it with the Red Dragon Archfiend, and I get the third Malicious off to pop all of his monsters with this Crush Card Virus, which honestly I don't even need to do. I don't even need to play Crush Card that turn, because the Red Dragon has so much attack. And he wouldn't want to shift them to defense mode, and then I would be able to use the last Malicious with the Plague Spreader. But he has the Oppression there, so I do have to banish the Malicious, yeah. So, this is an interesting dilemma. What is the best one to go into now? I have to banish this Malicious, because or else he'll Oppression at the next turn. We obviously don't want that. We need the Crush card to go off. We can't attack over the Spirit Reaper with the Red Dragon Archfiend. That was wrong. He has the Stardust on the field. So we have to attack over the Stardust with whatever we get. If we get Red Dragon Archfiend here, it allows us to have an out to the Reaper, which we otherwise don't have. The annoying part of that is if he several cards down, well, yeah, I think this is the best thing to do. During your end phase, destroy all monsters you control that did not declare an attack this turn. Okay, so we have to do this now. We have to use the Malicious to attack, or else he's going to die. So now we send the Malicious into the Reaper, we attack over the Stardust Dragon, and now we set the Crush Card Virus. At least we can see the cards he draws. And now we'll end. He'll draw Oppression, set Oppression. He'll try and attack over the Distant Hero Malicious. We will Crush Card it, killing his Stratos and Thought Ruler Archfiend, getting to see a few more draw phases. He probably won't actually even shift this to defense mode, to be brutally honest with you. Because if he draws, I guess I'm only at 1150, but there's a bunch of cards he could theoretically draw that he would want to leave this in attack mode, like his own Crush Card Virus, for example. That would be crazy. I could have put another level 8 on the field. I do acknowledge that, but I think seeing his draw phases plus destroying whatever he draws is probably better. I definitely acknowledge the possibility of having Colossal Red Dragon being better, but I'm not positive about that. I think getting the Crush card is a little bit better. You know, I guess we'll see. You know, it's greedy not to just play Crush. And hopefully I just draw Solemn Judgment. That would be nice. Good old Solemn Judgment off the top. That would be perfect. I wouldn't even mind drawing Necro Gardener, to be brutally honest. Yep. Okay, so he's going to put the Reaper in defense mode. He definitely has to attack. Oh, that's crazy. He's not attacking. He's going to play around Mirror Force. Wow. That's awesome, because that's going to give me another draw phase. What does this say? During your end phase, destroy all monsters that did not declare. After damage calculation, if this card attacks a defense position monster. Okay, so I have to attack the Reaper first so that the Red Dragon doesn't go off. And then I have to attack like this. And now I'll say go. Yeah. Yep. I could put a Lure on top to summon the Plague, but I don't think he's going to Oppression there, and I obviously need to keep this up. All right, so we set to set monsters. So that's, well, it's really interesting because he could attack this Malicious here. Oh man, I'm getting so many extra draw phases here. This is crazy. All right, I guess we'll draw Reaper. So Reaper is probably not going to be great for us. It's a little too defensive for where we are right now. What an interesting game. So all the Maliciouses are gone. What is he setting? He's setting Sangan. I feel like that's the only thing he could draw right now. Right, his 2 Krebons are gone. He's obviously not setting Krebons. He would summon... Would he summon Krebons? He wouldn't set Krebons. It has to be Sangan. Well, I think I'm going to Lure. I think that probably is the best thing to do. Krebon... Ooh. Our best friend Caius. So I can banish the Krebons, tribute the Malicious for Caius, banish the Sangan. These 2 monsters attack over his 2 set, and then I can threaten the Plague on top of my deck. And he probably is not going to Oppression that because he assumes what I'm trying to do at that point is to, yeah, I think that's probably the best. And then I'm going to drop to, and then even if he draws Brain Control, I don't outright lose. That seems like it's probably the best. So we're going to banish the Reaper. We're going to tribute the Malicious for the Caius to destroy the set, which I think is probably going to be Sangan. Right, yeah, Sangan. Perfect. It's highly, highly unlikely that he uses Oppression on this, because I'm threatening Caius plus Plague Spreader Zombie. And the reason I have to do a pre-battle phase is the Red Dragon Archfiend would destroy it. So we're going to attack for 300 here. Attack for 600 here. And then attack directly. So I can't just go into Stardust Dragon. You can Oppression that. So what I just did plays around Brain Control, which is the one card that I think would lose, that I'm the most afraid of. So we'll let him go into draw phase. I still have the Crush card up. Can't draw Reborn. Reborn is already gone. Rhoda, maybe? I guess I'm fine with him drawing Rhoda. All right, he emits defeat, yeah. Yeah. I had the Crush card.